An anthropologist proposed a game to children of an African tribe. He put a basket of fruit near a tree and told the children that the first one to reach the fruit would win them all. When he told them to run, they all took each other's hands and ran together, then sat together enjoying the fruit. When asked why they ran like that, they said, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? Ubuntu is a philosophy of African tribes that can be summed up as I am because we are. Working with communities and schools to improve the lives of all children. Parents for Public Schools of Jackson.
Good morning, and I'm Gwen Gardner. I'm Principal in Residence with Parents for Public Schools of Jackson. And I welcome you to Lunch Bunch. Lunch Bunch meets the first Wednesday of every month at 11:45. We invite you to join us and bring your friends. Please make sure we have your email address. We will send you notices of all our monthly forums. For those of you who may not be familiar with Parents for Public Schools of Jackson, the organization was founded here in Jackson in 1989. Our work centers around supporting parents as partners with the school and education of their children, ensuring that all children have the access to quality teaching and learning, and engaging the public in active support of public schools. Parents for Public Schools of Jackson has adopted a philosophy from Africa called Ubuntu. At its core, Ubuntu is described as I am because we are. So today, our special guest is Beneta Burt.
My name is Edie Graham. I'm the Operations Program Manager for Parents for Public Schools of Jackson. Thank you again for coming. Beneta Burt serves as Executive Director for the Mississippi Roadmap to Health Equity Incorporated, which provides knowledge, tools, and technical support to individuals and communities to help them form partnerships with institutions, social advocates, researchers, and policymakers to collectively create community change toward health equity. The organization is guided by a group of Jackson community members who are dedicated to improving the health and well-being of children in Mississippi. Prior to joining Mississippi Roadmap, Ms. Burt served as President and Chief Executive Officer of the Urban League of Greater Jackson for 12 years. She was then appointed as Deputy Director of the City of Jackson's Department of Human and Cultural Services. Ms. Burt was subsequently appointed as liaison to the United States Department of Labor under then-Governor Ray Mavis. She also worked for the Manpower Demonstration Research Corporation in New York City. Ms. Burt earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Sociology, Social Welfare, and a Master of Arts degree in Public Policy and Administration from Jackson State University. Ms. Burt received mayoral appointments as a commissioner for the Jackson Redevelopment Authority, where she served as Vice President, and a trustee of the Jackson Public School Board, where she serves as President of the Board. Ms. Burt is a member of New Hope Baptist Church, where she serves as Secretary of the New Hope Community Development Corporation.
I would like to first thank Carolyn Jolivet and the Parents for Public Schools for this invitation. I consider it an important opportunity to talk about Jackson Public Schools. We are all family here, regardless of whether you are directly affiliated with the Jackson Public Schools or whether in fact you are a community member with an interest in the welfare of our students. I consider that as family. So, family, let's talk JPS. The first thing on your mind is where we're going in terms of leadership. Dr. Cedric Gray resigned as our superintendent for Jackson Public Schools. We really want to thank Dr. Gray for his time, effort, and tenure with JPS. We appreciate the hard work that he put into our school system. So as we move forward, we selected Dr. Fred Murray as interim superintendent as we assemble a team to do our search. I wanted to give everybody a little schematic of the work that he's done. Dr. Murray was first appointed as principal of Board Elementary School. He came into the system actually in 1994. And during his tenure at Board, the school moved from successful to exemplary. He then transitioned to Powell Middle School as principal after leaving Board. And during his time at Powell, he led the school to moving from a 2 low-performing to a 3 successful. After 6 years at Powell Middle School, Dr. Murray transitioned to Murrah High School, where he spent 5 years as principal. During that time, Murrah reached and sustained a successful status under the new curriculum. Murrah was also rated as one of the top 500 schools in America by U.S. News and World Report multiple times during his tenure. Now, Dr. Murray has been in the Chief Academic Officer's position for high school during the past 2 years. And during that time as the CAO responsible for the high school division, until the most recent rating, the high school division had no failing schools. So the Board of Trustees has full faith in Dr. Murray's ability to assemble a team, to energize a team that, frankly, as you know, we've been going through a number of stressful kinds of situations, not just with this immediate concern that we have, but in the past years, there have been circumstances and things that have prevented the learning process from going forward as we would like it to. So, family, we have got to do something to make sure that the well-being, the safety, the educational achievement of our children, that all of that is absolutely achieved. And I am certain that we can do it. Let me just tell you what the process is going forward in terms of defining a leader. First of all, we will assemble, find a search team. We'll have a search committee. They will narrow the candidates down. There will be interviews, community participation, final selection of the superintendent. But the very first thing is to find a search team. This is not something that happens overnight. At the board meeting, there was a parent there, because I said something about we're going to do it with deliberate speed. And she said, I hope that you do it with deliberate speed, but I hope that it's very inclusive. And that was very important to me, for her to say that. I love the fact that when you have passionate parents who are interested in the welfare of children, I welcome every comment that comes from them, because after all, the parents, that's where our kids are, in the homes of our parents. And so she said, will you have parents on this search committee? And so the answer is absolutely, yeah, there will be representatives, because, you know, when you are part of a team, you can't come in at the end of the game because you're not invested in it. But if you begin with that, then not only do you become invested in it, you play the whole game. This process will be a thorough one. It will be transparent. It will be open, and it will be inclusive as we go toward trying to find the person that will replace Dr. Gray. And of course, at the end of the day, the Board of Trustees has to make a decision. But it will be a thoughtful one. It will be one with the considerations that we would have gotten as we have had community conversations about the prospective candidates. And so also at the end of the day, y'all know everybody will not be happy, okay? We know everybody will not be happy, and you know, I can't guarantee you that, nor do I strive for that, frankly. But what I want to be, though, I want to have a process that you recognize as one that where people had an opportunity to have a conversation, an opportunity to have input, and to see that input considered. Once I think that we've done that, I think we will have done our job, because then it will be a community conversation, a community decision. But once the decision is made, after we have all these this input, I need support. Because, you know, when people come in to interview, you know, you see the interviewee. You know what I mean?
You see the best thing, you see the best foot forward, you see everything that you want to see. And why? Because I am trying to get a job, right? I am saying that is that we will try to get the best candidate, but don't look for perfection, because I don't think that any of us can say that we are perfect beings. We need, though, the community to shore up those things that we lack. And then it brings the community together, the teachers and administrators and our students see that there is a difference. They see that there is a willingness for the entire community to step around and protect the children of our system. And we hope, family, that that's what this community will do, because we do have a number of concerns that we have to deal with. One, of course, that I know all of you have on your sheet is our corrective action plan. You will know that several months ago, the State Department of Education came into the system. They did an audit, and so as a result of that, there were a number of corrective action steps that we have to take in order to meet the standards of the Department of Education. It was not a financial audit. Had nothing at all to do with our finances. Our fund balance is $15 million, and it is way more than it used to be several years ago. So when people tell you that, that they're out there and all the money is, I need family to dispel those notions. It was an audit of these schools that looked at issues that the State Department of Education said had to do with safety, they had to do with facilities, and then they said had to do with graduation rates. And let me just jump on graduation rates at the very beginning. What they said was that it appeared that our students were graduating without having the benefit of fulfilled all of the requirements to graduate. That was absolutely not the case. What the auditors found when they came over, when they looked in some of the files, maybe there wasn't a parent signature, there wasn't a student signature, it wasn't a counselor signature. And so if you look at something, say, is it complete? Well, if something is missing, it's not complete. But it's not to the extent that you're talking about kids graduating when they shouldn't. We have been working with the State Department of Education. They have been very generous in coming over and looking at what we have, and then marking that off as we have corrected the issues that they cited in the report. We had a deadline, 60 days from the audit, to send in our corrective action plan. It was sent in on time. It's been accepted by the State Department of Education. So now, as they look through it, they then will work with staff to make sure that as issues are resolved inside the school system, they let the Department of Education know, they come and they check, and they check that off. As a result, there's also another ongoing audit that's going on inside our schools as well. There are a number of distractions that are within our schools, but we have to manage all of them. And not only do we have to manage them, we have to keep teaching our children. Because the bottom line is that regardless of what is going on organizationally or structurally, our bottom line is our children. And that they have got to keep being taught well, they have got to attend school, they have got to do all those things that we can strategize as a way to move our system forward. So I am, and my fellow board of trustees are focused on academic achievement in light of all of it, in recognition of all the other things and all the other balls that we have to keep in the air. We just got to keep them there. We are resilient, our children are resilient, and so are our teachers and administrators. And so we know what's ahead of us. We know what's ahead of us for a long time, frankly. And that we have got to keep going to make sure that we get that done. What helps and what hurts is social media. There's the good, bad, and the ugly. And there are ways that it helps us, and there are ways that it absolutely hurts us. For example, when we got the audit, in an effort to be really, really transparent, we thoughtfully and purposely decided that we would have a town hall meeting in each of our 7 wards, led by each of our trustees. The idea behind that was to make sure that people understood that we were being transparent. There wasn't this clandestine audit that we were trying to get resolved without the community knowing what it is. So it was open. We had each of the CAOs there that explained their specific job in correcting whatever was cited as a deficiency in their particular department. And we got lots of questions. One thing that it said to me was that we probably ought to have more community conversations. Just the idea that parents and community people wanted to have a conversation, that we ought to have more of them. And so, and that they ought to see our leaders more, that they ought to see our chief academic officers more. And that, you know, once you talk to people and they become friends, you talk in an honest kind of way. You have a conversation that is sometimes hard, but at the end of the conversation, you're both better for it. Those are the kinds of conversations that we have to have. So we did these town hall meetings. Now, the good was that we had lots of great participation. We had lots of great questions. The bad was that some of them weren't attended as much as with the attendance that we would have liked to have gotten it. And the ugly, the ugly was that how some people turned the nature of the meetings through social media. And so when people just generate untruths about what's going on in your community, in your family, in your school system, it tends to tear away everything you work for. But worse than that, when we buy into it without having any proof, without knowing anything except somebody is just out there just yapping away, I think that we give that person credibility. And we say to them what they say has value, and that not only does it have value, that we are buying into it, and as a result, we're going to think that way. I think it taints a lot of the good community will that we have across the city. We've just met with a wonderful group of both public and private sector folks in this community. And I will tell you, each and every one of them was so supportive of Jackson Public Schools. What they said is what many parents have said. What can I do to help? How can we help? How can we be supportive? When Jackson goes down the tubes, we can no longer really promote economic development in the city. People don't want to come to a city where there are no opportunities, where they look at the school system and kids are failing. So it's to everybody's benefit that we make sure that we enlarge the footprint of JPS in terms of its academic achievement. So I encourage all of you to think about the parts that you play. When you hear things that you know are just not true, dispel the notion. When people on social media use it for their own means, because sooner or later they're going to ask you for some money, you know that. But ask hard questions of people before we follow them. Ask about their character. Ask about what they do and why they are doing this. What's their motivation for doing it? People have all kinds of reasons for doing things. We are focused on our children. I think that we all have to be. It requires whatever it requires in terms of time, effort, whatever. I invite the entire community to participate. And the big question is, how can the community help? And one slice is creating avenues to teaching parenting skills to younger parents. One of the reasons that we sometimes have some behavioral problems with our children is our children have very young parents, and they really don't have the skills to be parents. So I'm hoping that community organizations and churches and everybody look within your audience, wherever you are, and see little Beneta over there who needs some help, because sometimes we just don't know. Sometimes it's been my experience with young people that I've been working with, they like, oh, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to bring all of the children to the interview, you know? You know, but now if you say, I don't have anybody to keep them, I want this job, I'm just going to sit them out there and I'm going to say to them, be quiet. Well, that's an honest effort to get a job. But so we have to figure out how to help them negotiate those kinds of things so that they too can be better parents. So just want you to keep that in mind. The other thing I want you to consider is that Jackson Public Schools has 4,000 technically homeless children, which means that they couch surf, they stay with Uncle Ben, Aunt somebody, and the neighbor or anybody else that gives them a sense of comfort for the day because they don't have a stable home. Now just think about that situation, and you tell that child when he comes to class to sit up, pay attention, and tell me where's your homework. So our teachers have a lot to do, more than some schools do. We got to get the kids' attention first. We are natural nurturers. When kids come to school, it's just our culture to do it. If somebody is having an issue, I know that some parents are going to figure out how to buy shoes. Teacher will figure out how to buy this or how to buy that. It's what we do. And I'm happy it's what we do because it says that we are a caring community and that we care about our children. So we have to do this collectively so that the load does not get overbearing. For one, our teachers need to be able to teach. And in the coming months, parents and community and family need you to understand that parents are really going to have conversations with their children. We have to be able to teach. We cannot have disruptive classrooms so that the few who are very disruptive prevent those from who really want to be there and who really want to learn. We have to figure out what to do with them. I expelled some kid from my summer program about 6 times last year in the span of 6 weeks. And I brought him back and brought him back and brought him back because I knew there was something in this kid. There was something there. And as it turns out, the kid ended up playing golf and it's just, we found him. We sat him in front of a computer. We found him. We have to find these kinds of things in our children. And it takes more than just a little mediocre effort. It takes a huge effort to do it. I thank you very much. And we need all of you. We are so appreciative of our teachers and administrators. Everybody, please, every day when you wake up, give them all a virtual hug because it takes more than a notion to be a teacher. It does. It takes more than a notion to be a teacher. And our principals and others have major responsibilities. So I invite you all to join us in this effort. I think it's one in which we all will collectively benefit and our city will be much better off for it. Thank you very much.
Okay, we want to just thank Ms. Burt for shedding the positive light and preaching the gospel, the true gospel about Jackson Public Schools. Because of your commitment here today, we know that you share in Jackson Public Schools' goal, and that is to ensure every scholar, every day, is ready for life. Ms. Burt would just like to take questions from the floor.
Sure.
Is there a regular system for professional development for the teachers and staff?
The question was related to professional development, and the answer is yes, particularly during the summer months as we're gearing up. There are a number of professional development sessions that's going on all the time. If you need specifics about it, I'll be happy to provide it for you.
With the district now being labeled an F, and the idea that, if 2 years being labeled an F, that leads to all kinds of things. So that means in the coming May, what are the plans to shore up so we're not back in that place again?
I will tell you that that is one of the first thing that we are now doing with Dr. Murray. He was just, of course, appointed. And that's why I was saying that in spite, rather, of all the other things that's going on, we still have to think about that because that is, in fact, will be inevitable if we continue down the path that we're going. So we'll be looking at ways, and Dr. Murray will think about, what level of expertise that might be brought in to help us, go down that path to try to make sure that we are not in the same situation.
I think that it would be helpful to look below the gap on the district, but that doesn't mean that every school in Jackson Public Schools is failing. And I think it would be helpful in your communications to make it clear to the public that, yeah, the district got an F, but let me tell you about our individual schools.
That's exactly right, because people automatically assume that every school, all 60 schools, are Fs. When we have Davis Magnet, that's an A. You have 4 of them are A's, and others are B's, and the other ones are C's. So you're absolutely right. I think that as we go forward, that's exactly what we will do scorecards that shows those specific schools, because we do have bright children in all of our schools.
Could you speak to the impact of the newly opened charter schools and how that has affected either in the rating or even the financial or any financial issues that JPS may be having?
I'm thinking that last year, based upon the number of students who left JPS and went to a charter school, amounted to about $500,000 that JPS pays to the charter school. When that child returns to us, if it's before the end of the school year, the money does not return to us. The charter schools aren't doing as well as they were scheduled to do. And so people have to make decisions about what it really means to send their children somewhere else when you can improve where you are. I think that parents really want the best for their children. All of us do. Every parent wants the best for his or her child. You can bet that. We have to sit and have some actual facts as to what we have here, and how we might make decisions that works best for the children.
Around the superintendent search, when you get to a certain number of candidates, will you have public forums for comments or questions from the community for those candidates?
The process generally is at some point when it comes to the community that there are opportunities for the community to have questions to the candidates. Of course, you know that any search will have to be narrowed down to a certain amount. And once it's kind of narrowed down, and then whatever those candidates are, then yes, there will be opportunities for questions and comments from the community.
What can parents of public schools of Jackson do in addition to what we're doing to spread the good news and sort of speak against all the negativism that's out there?
Thank you, Carolyn. I think that one thing that Jackson Public School has to do is that we got to get social media savvy. We have got to get social media savvy, y'all. Because, when somebody says something, if we don't dispel that notion right then, it's too late to dispel it tonight. So that's one thing that we're going to figure out, how to get a response to stuff. But not only, mean-spirited things, but things that we need to talk about, things that the community needs to know, a place where you feel like that information is great information. So I'm going to be really, really pushing hard for us to be able to do that. Computers are not going away. This is not a fad. We're going to have to deal with this from now on in even more and more sophisticated ways as we progress and somebody discovers another reason for us to have to buy a newfound computer. It's going to be different. And so because that is the case, with Jackson Public Schools having 28,000 students, we have got to figure out a way the whole community can communicate in a way that's positive. And we can quell some of the really negative things that happen if everybody collectively is able to see what's going on and then respond to it.
Thank you, Ms. Burt, for being here today, and I hope everyone has the questions and answers that you wanted. Thank you again for coming, and thank you, audience, for being such an engaged audience today. Please join us next month for our next lunch bunch. It's December 7th, right here, same time. Until then, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and our website for updates on the upcoming news out of our schools and communities. Remember, we're working together to improve the lives of all children.